So this is the continued saga of Taiwan and the challenges and what got me through it and who got me through it. So I think I'll continue with the daily schedule, and I think I left off with breakfast. After breakfast, there was a teaching time each day that went from 8 a.m. until 10:20 with a break in there, and they invited various teachers from around Taiwan to come and give us lectures. So that was quite wonderful to hear the variety of teachings from these people. Then lunch would happen, and you've heard about the eating part, so I won't do that one again. And then from 12:30 until about 1:35 each day was something called, well, in my words, it was a mandatory nap. And of course, because I'm in this sea of sound where not much is getting translated, I didn't know in the first week that it was mandatory. And so one day I went and strolled over to the main hall, and I wasn't caught, I don't know how. But as I was looking out at the view and then I passed by the office, one of the nuns in the office sort of looked at me and she said something like, "Nap?" And I just went, I don't know. So what she was trying to tell me was I should have been having a nap. So after a couple of days, my friends around me told me that it was not optional to wander around, that I had to go and lie down. So I did that, and there was no repercussions there. So then from 2 till 4:30 every day was rehearsal. And this took place in the main outdoor hall. And of course, the whole 32 training day period was designed to get us ready for these 3 ordinations. So this is called a triple platform because there's 3 ordinations. The first ordination was the Shramanera ordination. The second one, which is the most important, was the Bhikshuni Ordination, and the third one was the Bodhisattva ordination. So in the first week in the main hall, they were introducing, well, they weren't introducing to anyone, they weren't introducing at all. They were refining the points to everyone in the audience on how to bow, how to prostrate, how to hold our hands, and how to wear the hai ching, which is the robe that went over our underclothes. Now, to everyone else, these are points of refinement. To me and perhaps one other person, and at the very end of the course I found out there was a monk from India. I don't know what language he was speaking. I don't know if he even had translation. But anyway, for me, this was all brand new, and for everyone else, it was just refinement. And so in day 1 of the rehearsal, everyone got to hear the fine points about wearing the hai ching. Now, my neighbor from Sydney, when she started her training at the university in Taiwan, they learned how to wear the hai ching for 2 weeks. They had an hour each day dedicated just to that robe. And on day 1, I was introduced to it and then was supposed to master it in that time period of 2 hours. And, basically I discovered something I already knew. I have a learning disability around material. It's just, I'll say it like that. I did not come from a family that sews. And if you come from a family that sews, you know about folding material. It's the same thing with tying knots. It's like, there's just a malfunction in my mind. It's not one of my strong points. So I'm going to share a part of the story now that no one here has heard. This is brand new. So okay, it was a big struggle learning how to put on the hai ching gracefully, like everyone else was doing, and I was really standing out as the foreigner. So at the end of the rehearsal time, then I'll continue on with the schedule for a minute. From 5 till 6 every day is chanting, which we did for an hour. So there's the morning chanting and the evening chanting. And then we returned to the main hall for another rehearsal period, which went from 7 till 9:15 in the evening. So on day 1, after being introduced to the hai ching, at 7 o'clock it was announced that we'd have a quick review of what we learned earlier that afternoon, which for me was like, I'm starting over, everybody. And then, to my huge surprise and horror, they started out calling rows of people who would go in front of the whole assembly and demonstrate the wearing of the hai ching. Now, there were actually 9 possible groups that could be called. Well, I was in the group that was called. And so I go out with everyone else who knows exactly what they're doing because they've just been given the fine points. And I'm standing there sort of with my arms flailing, and the translator and another nun are helping me basically get into this robe. Now, in normal circumstances, humiliation and despair and everything else would have arisen. And I was in a state of shock because I couldn't believe that this was really happening. And so I just sort of thought, well, you know, they know I've never done this before. I might be the worst example there, but someone has to be the worst example there. And so I knew that in everyone's heart, they were thinking, I am so glad it's you then, not me. And so I thought, I'm giving people a gift. But, you know, the more I thought about it after the fact, I thought, oh, man, that was really tough. So then this set up a new level of hysteria, wondering what else would be asked to demonstrate in the days to come. And that's another story I'll leave for the next installment. But so what got me through this? You know, everyone clapped at the end, you know, and my group said, way to go, even though they're going, oh, man, that was really bad. And then actually later, even though we were supposed to be in silence, this was so terrific and so kind. This one nun who was in my group where we slept, who had very little English, came over and she grabbed someone else to help translate. And she came up to me with the tiniest glass bottle I've seen in my life. And I would show it to you now, except I gave it as a gift. But really, the glass bottle had a little cork in it with the tiniest cork I've seen in my life. And in this little gift were blessed pills. And so between her English and the translator, she told me that this was a gift, and she got it when she was in Bodh Gaya during the Kala Chakra, which had just taken place, and these are blessed pills from His Holiness. And the whole reason I knew that she was giving it to me was like, you know, don't feel bad, and if you're feeling really bad, take these blessed pills. So it was those kinds of things throughout the 32 days, you know, when it was really going like this is tough going. People would reach out to me and give me these little gifts, or they'd pat me on the shoulder and say, you know, it's okay, you're doing fine. So that was very, very helpful. I downed about half the bottle before bedtime that night. So the other very interesting thing about being a non-speaker and not having translation was, you know, just being in this sea, this sound of vowels and consonants. And so it was very interesting not having the ability or the opportunity to express my opinion for 5 weeks. So it didn't matter what I thought about what could have been done better. There was no one to tell, and I'm sure that no one really wanted to know anyway, but there was no opportunity. And then the other thing that it made me realize and appreciate and really make a strong determination in my mind for future, I thought about how in my teaching career, people from other countries would come to the school that I was teaching in, and they virtually had no English. And I see that in our school where we received Kurdish people who were fleeing from Saddam Hussein, and later on people from Bosnia who were fleeing that terrible situation, they came into Edmonton, Alberta with virtually no English. And the kids were plunked into our classrooms, you know, with absolutely nothing to go on. And, you know, to be sure, we did the best we could for them at the time, but I see now how they must have suffered so much. And the kids who were, you know, acting out in a very big way were acting out for very good reasons. They had just, you know, they had nothing to go on. And so being in this situation, I saw that, you know, new immigrants to a country are really needing huge amounts of compassion and so much more help than we were able to give these kids who showed up in our classrooms at that time. So that was very good to think about, and in the future when I meet a non-English speaker, I'm going to rush to that person and try and find out how I can help them. And also not do what I experienced in Taiwan, which was the classic saying it louder and saying it slower. You know, so that is really quite humiliating as well. So I'll do one more installment on Taiwan in a few days. And the experience, as I get to talk about it more and more, was very powerful. It was very difficult, and there was so much help. So.